Hello, 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 and welcome to Summer of 26, a global soccer showdown. Here we are on this Sunday morning with myself, Gary Striker, and as always, the Qooligan, who is. Have you overdosed on football matches or soccer matches yet, Qooligan, or are you still hungry for more today?
I mean, I actually am going and officiating 2 college showcase games this afternoon. So no, apparently I haven't gotten my fill.
Yeah.
Though I did have to back out of a post-match press conference yesterday. I did attend the Oakland Roots game. I mean, I had to back out of that post-conference because I was exhausted and I just needed to get home.
Yeah, I get it. Well,
I had things that I needed to do. There
more games and more write-ups and more content and copies to cover, right?
Exactly.
Wow, wonderful. Well, okay, we'll be getting into it today. So, of course, as always, guys, hooligan-soccer.com is where you can go and find all of the writings, musings, match reports, country previews, where to find good bars in various cities around the US as well. So much stuff, but it's always there. But of course, as always, like, follow, subscribe. It really helps us with these algorithms that seem to be the overlords of our lives as well. So yeah, please, if you can like and share, that would be very much appreciated. Okay, Qooligan, I have to say, I was looking at today's fixtures compared to yesterday's fixtures on Friday going into the weekend. And I was like, Sunday is going to be the best day in terms of game watching. However, looking back at those games yesterday, those were really, really good games yesterday and a lot of good results. First of all,
some of them were good.
Yeah. I mean, Qatar with the shot result against Switzerland, I thought that was a surprise with that last minute.
Qatar had a good ending.
They did have a good ending as well.
Had a shocking ending.
Yes.
And it really kind of made everything worthwhile. Even all the local news here is talking about how without that equalizing goal, the debut World Cup event down at San Francisco Bay Area was going to be somewhat of an unmitigated disaster. But with that one goal, all of a sudden it became right. The world became okay.
It became okay, yes. Yeah, I thought they did well.
I mean, aside from the game itself, the logistical issues at the stadium were significant, like big time.
What, just like getting parking and getting to and from the stadium? Is that it?
Not even that so much. I mean, listen, the Swiss did their traditional march through the local streets, and that's great, and that was fun. Levi's has a unique setup. If you've ever been there, and if you're in the sun, if that stadium is in full sunlight,
it's no shade, is there? Yeah.
It is an absolute crucible. There is a reason why the San Francisco 49ers do not play home games in September. And if you go back, you'll see. And if they do, they always play night games. And there's a reason for that, because it is unbearable inside that stadium during that day. Now, it wasn't exceptionally hot for the Bay Area at that time, but it was warm.
Yeah.
And inside the stadium, temperatures were pushing way past like
3
upper
digits,
90s.
Right? Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
And when I was watching the opening of the game, I went, damn, there's a lot of empty seats in there. Well, it turns out they weren't. Nobody was going into the stadium.
They were just hiding because they were
literally crowded into the concourse in the shade, watching stuff on TV.
Enjoying their $15 Michelobs. Yeah, because it was too unbearable, right?
Even the Qataris couldn't stand the heat.
Wow, which was saying something. Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Well,
and so, yeah, that's, so that aside, and, that was, and then of course there was the game itself, which, go ahead, talk to me about Switzerland. What did you think?
They were okay. They were okay. They were consistent, as we discussed yesterday, like a Swiss clock, of course, just going around. But they didn't do the business, and they did not kill off the Qataris, and that was probably their downfall, not getting that second goal.
I would say they were profligate. They wasted so many of their opportunities. They couldn't, like you said, they couldn't finish. But also, let us give big props and kudos to the Jordanian, excuse me, just finished editing an article about Jordan. So my head is in a completely different part of the Middle East. My apologies.
Yeah.
The Qatari goalkeeper put on an absolute masterclass. He did a great job. That was Mahmoud Abunada, who plays for Al Rayyan.
Yeah.
What a masterful job he did. Outside of the penalty that he committed, right?
Yeah,
that was a penalty. Although I have a caveat on that one. We'll swing back to that later. Yeah, he clearly went out. The guy, it's fine. Wasn't a red. That was fair. But that was the penalty. But then he redeemed himself by making at least a handful of really critical saves to keep his team within shouting distance. And of course, I guess I would imagine that in the streets of Doha, they're calling it the Qatari miracle. And I think that's appropriate. Right?
Yeah, no, but also if you just look at the momentum graph as well that FIFA have all started pushing out now, it was all Switzerland. It was all Switzerland. Qatar just really didn't have much to do in terms of attacking until that last moment, and just managed to nick it and get a valuable point for them, which opens that group completely right up. Look at that after the first round,
completely, yeah,
all on 1 point. Who would have thought that, right?
Yeah, and in a way, it really speaks to some of the crazy juice that gets poured at the World Cup, right? When you have something like that, a team that is almost thoroughly outmatched, outplayed, and yet still manages to come away with something. And remember, that's Qatar's first point.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. They hosted. And
they scored one goal in their third game. Against Senegal, they scored one goal. I was at that game, funny enough, as well. And it was like, they were 2-0 down, I think, at the time. It's like, come on, just get a goal. And they did. They managed to get the header and the place went nuts. But yeah, so it was really wonderful to see that.
That's the second time that happened already by the third day of the third day of the World Cup. We already had two teams that have never scored points get their points. Well, that's good, right? Canada being the first, Qatar being the second. Yeah. And players that nobody's ever heard of suddenly became big fixtures. Now, obviously, Boualem Kouki, who scored the goal, is a legend of Qatari football, right? He's their captain, center back, just absolutely. He's put that thing home. Ronaldo could not have done any better. It was like, that was his Ronaldo moment, like just sailing through the air. And putting it, if that had been a concrete wall, his forehead would have gone through the wall. That's how hard he hit that thing. It was brilliant.
Indeed.
It was brilliant. Yeah. It was really, really good. Really, really good. I was sitting at my TV, like really not really paying attention, doing something on the laptop, and I heard this thing. I went, hell no.
Just good.
What?
Yeah.
Crazy. No. 26 shots Switzerland took. They put 7 on frame. They had 42 touches in the opposition box. These are high numbers. They had a 3.24 XG, but only scored once.
There you go. And
end of story. End of story right there.
It just goes to show. Yeah. Speaking of end of stories, Brazil-Morocco. That was the game I was looking most forward to, and it was not that entertaining and not that impressive. Maybe we were looking at two different games, but I didn't think it was such a great game.
I echo that sentiment heartily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was
Brazil looked very
dud.
flat.
It was an absolute dud.
It
right?
was, yeah. Brazil, Vinny scored a great goal and a great response as well when they went 1-0 up, and you thought, okay, here we go. And then you think the two teams were probably just happy to take the points and move on, then just go and beat the other guys in the group, hopefully, and then pick up their points there, right? That was Brazil did not look convincing. Morocco held up, and I think were as good as Brazil, which obviously speaks to obviously the world rankings and how they're both next to each other, and how far Morocco have come now, where they are a country now that they are comparable with Brazil, right? With such great footballing heritage. But yeah, but that was not an entertaining game, and Carlo Ancelotti and co have to really, really start digging it out, because they're gonna have to wake up.
Yeah. We've had a guest on our podcast, Nathan Joyous, and he's written a bunch of stories that are critical about Brazil. Another one's coming out very shortly. In fact, just sent it over. He's proven to be pretty spot on with a lot of his analysis. Brazil looked too slow in the back. That first goal, that was clearly an example of how Morocco was able to just cut through their lines, and there was a lack. Outside of Vinicius Jr., there seemed to be a lack of urgency and creativity within the side.
Yeah.
I will also be critical of Morocco, because if they had a finisher, if they had anybody who showed any inkling of desire to shoot or score outside of Akram Hakimi, who's a defender, they would have won that game. They lack a 9. They lack a clinical finisher. And if I was Morocco right now, I would be scouring the countryside or doing whatever you can to find that one kid, that one person
who just wants to shoot.
I mean, listen, Ronaldo's citizenship is quite. I mean, he would definitely join Morocco. All they got to do is offer him something, and he would turn same colors, just shift him around a little bit, right? He'd completely turn his back on Portugal if they offered him a emirate and a palace on a hillside. Who knows, man?
I think he's good.
But
where he is right now,
they need a striker. They don't
need a
have
striker.
that was a lovely finish, but they need somebody who's just completely selfish and ruthless up front to finish that out. And I think as you see this go forward, the coach is going to have to address this and find somebody within the squad they have who's going to fit that role. But it just was glaringly obvious that they didn't have the guy.
Yeah. And then moving through, I mean, who would have thought this, looking at this group and saying Scotland would be top of the group? I mean, obviously you'd expect them to have actually sort of got the points against Haiti as well. I have to say, Haiti were very competitive. Hey, I really enjoyed watching Haiti. They were good. They were very good. Scotland, by the way, I just want to say this. I'm assuming maybe you just had an off day, but Scott McTominay was not that great. Hey, he was very, very underwhelming.
I mean, probably. I mean, he had that one shot that hit the post. As I texted to our group chat, if that goes in, I think Scotland has a very different game. It appeared as if that woodwork kind of took him down a peg. You know what I mean? And
lost his confidence, yeah.
Well, it wasn't just him. I think the whole team took that personally. And so I didn't get a chance to, full disclosure, I didn't get a chance to really watch this game because it was on the screen while I was watching another game in person. But yeah,
ground out the result. That's what they did. They held on at the end. Haiti really came
and listen, among the other reporters that I was in the pool with, my whole point was, does it matter? I mean, yes, everybody wants, and everybody I think intuitively knows that Scotland needed goals in order to make it competitive and have a chance for that third place spot. But ultimately, 3 points is better than 3 goals, right? If they had scored 3 goals and still gotten a draw, that wouldn't have mattered, right? Then, they needed the 3 points first. 3 points first, X padded goals second. That's the way every group phase works. Get the 3 points first, pad the goals second. Well, they did it. They did their job, right? More than Brazil, more than Morocco. They went in, they got their 3 points. They're sitting on top. Tartan Army, relish this, lord it over everyone else that you meet for the next 5 days because it will not last. But
Boston must have been a fun place last night, though, after that result.
Yeah, of course. Boston's generally a fun place, but I think it would have been extra fun with a lot of bagpipes last night. Scotland's game plan right now is to get a draw. I mean, obviously they want to win, but their game plan is to get a draw. And I think that if you're a Scottish fan and you saw the way Morocco and Brazil played, you have to think, why not us? Why not
get
us?
out them? Yep.
Neither one of them looked particularly good against each other. Figure out how that happened, follow that formula, and do it.
Yeah. That Scotland-Brazil game's actually suddenly, all of a sudden, a lot more jeopardy in it as well, right? Because
all of the games in that group have jeopardy in it because you're right. Haiti did not look bad. They didn't roll over. They didn't expose their belly, and they didn't play like a team that was just happy to be there. They played like a team that sort of stood up, puffed their chest out and said, yeah, we deserve this. Thanks.
Indeed.
We're going to go and take it ourselves now.
Yeah, they should have every right to go after Brazil and Morocco and say, let's have a go.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I actually think it's going to be a great group now.
Yeah, well, it absolutely is, and particularly as well because I have my tickets for the games. I have whoever finishes second in this group, I get to go and see in Texas. So I will be watching this one. It could be Scotland. I could be watching Scotland in Dallas.
Could be watching Scotland. Could be seeing your Scotland after all.
Yeah, there we go. And then, by the way, final game of yesterday, Australia. Wow,
best game of the day.
Of things.
Best game of the day.
When did we stop saying Turkey and call them? What they've been sort of rebranded in a way. Suddenly we don't call them Turkey anymore. I was wondering when this happened. I'm curious. No, yeah, Turkey. It's Turkey. Maybe it's
yes, it is.
Maybe I'm not so relevant or sort of culturally up to it, but yeah, sort of Turkey. I expected Turkey with their young superstars of Gula and Yildiz to actually really sort of turn it on here, and they just couldn't get through. They could not get through. They were trying everything. That game, Australia were fantastic. They had really 2 good passages of play and they scored from them both. And how fantastic is it that young, Nestory Irankunda, who was born in a Tanzanian refugee camp. He was born in a Tanzanian refugee camp, emigrated to Australia, and then got up and then scored. Youngest ever scorer for Australia in a World Cup. And wow. I watched the interview afterwards with him, and what a character. I really, really was enamored with him for sure.
Well, I think he basically splashed himself into the stratosphere on this one, and everybody's going to be looking. And if he continues to have a really good World Cup, good luck, Watford, because you're going to lose that guy.
Well, I mean, fine. They'll get compensated. Yeah. But again, people will fall in love with them. Yeah.
But I think, Watford probably want to have him on the pitch, but somebody else, somebody else might be thinking they want him on there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also,
and in case you're curious, it was 2021 when Turkey, it didn't actually, so in Turkish, it's always been known as Turkey.
Turkey, of course. Yeah.
But what happened was Erdogan basically went, start using it when referring to our country. And people done that. But it's very similar to the way that the Czech Republic changed its name to Czechia.
Czechia, right? Yeah. It came out of nowhere. They just announced one day, yeah.
Yeah, it just happened. And so
rebranding.
That's the way it is. And so you just sort of go through and you go, right, that's the way you want to be called? Fine. We've got no problem with that.
Well, they're going to have to more worry about the goals that they didn't score, because that was they also seemed to have a similar issue to Morocco in a way of just not being able to put the ball in the back of the net. And I have to say, I thought, again, with Yildiz.
Not for lack of putting new players on. I mean, they did try to put in some of their, I was shocked that they did not start Kenan Yildiz. And I think they started Yilmaz instead of Yildiz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, that might be revisited, right? They might have to go back and rethink that strategy that they employed, or what their lineup was. But I'm going to tell you this, and I wrote about it. Australia won because their players put everything out on the line and played their guts out, but they won because they were out-managed. Tony Popovic, who most people probably don't give a lot of thought to, was recently, his contract was extended 2 days ago, right? They announced it. Now you know why. For anybody who was wondering, why would you extend a coach's contract? That's why. He made 3 big changes in that game that rippled throughout the entire team and essentially sealed that victory. The first thing that he did was one that most people didn't notice. He changed the formation. He usually plays in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-2. It's like he usually does a staggered set with a single up front and some wingers. He actually went, nope, we're going solid 5-4-1. And in that action, that completely and utterly changed the nature of the game. That formation, that low block, and that blistering counterattack was the key to the success, and Turkey couldn't break it down. He will do the exact same thing against the United States. You expect to see the exact same formation against the United States. Second thing he did, right, was he changed captains, right? Matthew Ryan is the most capped player for Australia. He has 104. He was expecting to get his 105th. According to what I heard, that day, he pulled Ryan aside and said, "You're out." And he went to this young guy, Patrick Beach, only had 2 caps, said, "You're starting."
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, amazing.
Guess what happened? He made 8 saves.
Yeah.
He had the game of his life, and it was his really quick thinking that restarted, like when Irankunda scored, it was his quick release that broke everything in. It was right after the hydration break. This is the third thing that he did. Right after the hydration break, he makes that one save, sees a gap, puts that ball, rolls that ball into space, and it was the next subsequent pass that went over the top that Irankunda ran onto. Okay, that's good. And then, of course, during that hydration break, Popovic took 2 players aside, took aside Toure, which is their striker, and Irankunda, and he was literally talking at them for 2 minutes.
Yeah, the hydration break changes the dynamic, isn't it? Yeah, you can see in the momentum maps as well when
absolutely.
The hydration break happens, it swings. Hey, it suddenly goes the other way. It really does.
But he knows how to use it, and that's the point. During the match, he was making subtle changes. Everything that he was doing was for the betterment of that game. So you take those 3 things that he did, and he managed the shit out of that game. And he gave Australia the tools that they needed to win, and they took it and they ran with it, and it was deserving, right?
Australia against US is going to be a great lineup here. That is going to be a very, very exciting matchup. Yeah.
That is, for me, at this moment, the match of the second round, right?
Yeah.
The second set tranche of games, that's the one. Because that one determines the winner. Winner of that game takes the group. I used to think it was kind of, I was thinking, and by the way, it blew up my whole thinking about the group changed on this one. I'm thinking, okay, here's what's going to happen. USA's going to win 2 games. Turkey's going to win 2 games. They're going to meet each other in the final game. It's not going to matter. Everybody's going to sort of be playing for this, that, and the other thing. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now the big game's against Australia. Now that Turkey game suddenly becomes a problem for the U.S. Because if Turkey have something to play for, they're going to be coming out like hell-bent for leather.
Yeah, but also to be further, but if US also beat Australia and have 6 points as well, they're also good. They know they're through. It's just whether they go first or second, right? So that does change a bit.
I agree, but what it does though is it presents you with a much more difficult opponent, and that unto itself is also risky, right? Because they're going to be, when you got one team that's super fired up and driven and another team that's not, that's where injuries happen. Because if you're not 100% committed, you're going to pull back. Something's going to happen, right? So it just creates worry, right? It creates worry. And I'm sure that Poch wasn't really thinking about that, but it's now a new strategy that he and his staff have to think about. Okay, fine. Yeah. It's good. Listen, that was the shock of the tournament so far, undoubtedly. It's funny. When I talked to my son about the game afterwards, I said, what a shock that was. He goes, why? Turkey sucked. I said, yeah, but they weren't predicted to suck. That's the point. He's like, really? I said, well, because he doesn't watch as much as I do. And I said, if you had watched Australia in the 5 games before the World Cup, and you would watch Turkey 5 games before the World Cup, you would feel the same way that I did, because Australia was abysmal. They didn't look good.
They were awful. They were awful. But they turned it on.
Flipped it around.
This has happened.
Good coaching.
Been quite a bit of a theme of this. There's been a few where in the run-up, like US as well, exactly the same, right? In the run-ups, you're like, form looks good, they're losing, they're drawing, they're sort of dropping points here, there, and ever, and goals, and then all of a sudden turn up and bang. It's almost as if part of the game plan was, guys, just hide the real strategy and the attention, but we'll keep working on it and then bring it out.
I don't think sandbagging works in this sport. I'm sorry.
I know, I don't think they do, but it does feel like there is an element of it, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I know we all want to think that people have these like masterful strategies, but that ain't it, man.
Exactly.
No,
it doesn't work that way.
That's not how it plays.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, let's move forward to today's games. Now, this is, again, if today's games are anywhere as good or near as good as yesterday, we're in for an absolute treat. I, for some reason, am quite looking forward to this Germany-Curaçao game, just because I have a feeling that this is not going to be the steam train that we're going to expect it to be of Germany going through. I think we could have another situation where they hold on. Maybe they lose 2 or 3 towards the back half, sort of after the third, in the third, fourth quarter. I can't believe I'm speaking like this, but in the sort of quarters now with the hydration breaks, they'll maybe get 2 or 3, but I think Curaçao will be able to put up a bit of a sort of wall here. Maybe you'd think differently, but that's what I'm going for.
Listen, I want to believe. I'm not sure it's going to happen. It could. You're right. That potential is there. Curaçao has no big names. They've got no big anything. But remember, all 26 of those lads are all Dutch trained. Okay. They all they were all born in the Netherlands. They all went to the Netherlands academies. They might not have been good enough to make it into the Dutch national team, but that doesn't mean that there's not quality on that team. And they have a really, really, really good coach who really, really, really hates Germany.
So the advocate, of course. Well, it's basically sort of like it's Holland, a diluted sort of minor version of Holland, basically, or Netherlands against the Germans, and they hate each other. They hate each other.
Here's a fun fact for you, Gary. Which country in the world has the most World Cup attendees in terms of birth, in terms of where they were born? Which country do you think has number one?
What do you mean attendees in terms of, sorry, what do you mean by that?
People playing on World Cup teams were born in this country. They don't necessarily represent that country, but they were born in that country.
Who has the most? I'm going to assume it's Germany, right?
Most?
I'm assuming it's Germany, right? You're born in Germany, you play for Germany. Is that it? No? England?
No.
Go on, who?
No.
Who?
France.
Holland? Okay.
There are more French-born players playing in this World Cup.
I see. Okay, sorry, that was the first question. Yes, all right. Of course, they play for Morocco and Algeria and the North Africans once. Yeah.
More French-born players, but the second is the Netherlands.
Dutch. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well,
mainly
the
because of
Dutch have,
Curaçao.
yeah.
Mainly
Well,
because of
that's it.
Curaçao, right? But still, and there are a lot of Dutch-born players. I think there's some Dutch-born players playing for
God,
Morocco and for Algeria
I
and some other
didn't even
places too. But yeah,
consider the
I know.
cultural sort of clash here, or sort of the
Yeah.
country clash. That is, yeah, that's elite. Wow, that's made it all of a sudden. Yeah, that's going to be a good game. I am interested to see how Germany do line up. Does Neuer start or not? I know you're not the biggest fan of. I think they probably will go with
I'm not a big fan of
experience.
them either, but
I
I
know.
think that could ultimately be to their detriment. Nagelsmann's no dope, okay, and is he's not certainly going to be terribly sympathetic. He could give one of the younger goalkeepers a start here. He's probably watched so much film about Curaçao that he's literally, he's speaking Papiamantu, or one of the pidgin
local
language, Creole language that they use.
The,
And yeah, I could see him doing a little bit of a tactical shift there, if only just to try and throw Advocat's plan off.
yeah.
Because with Neuer, you have the ability, you really do have that ability to exploit the fact that he's not very fast, right? And he tends to take risks.
He likes to play. He's a ball-playing goalkeeper, right? So that's it. It comes out. Yeah, he is.
And he has made mistakes in the past with Bayern Munich and before. Yeah. I would be very much, as if I was coaching Kroos, I'd be like, I don't care how tired you are, run your ass off and get up in his grill, right? But we'll have to see.
Him. Yeah.
I hope it's just a good game and not just a goal fest. All right, but I worry that it could be that way.
Yeah,
I just do.
Yeah.
It's when Germany gets a bee in their bonnet and gets that Mannschaft churning, they're really hard to stop.
Yeah, they are. And so this game is actually going to be in Houston, the NRG Stadium. So this is going to be the first game actually played indoors at this World Cup as well. So there will be no heat advantage. The Germans won't have that disadvantage against them in a way. So,
but they'll still have that hydration break.
Yes, they will still, which is interesting. They do deploy that. Yeah,
they will be doing it.
Let's just, in the name of time, let's just wrap up some of the other games that are going on. Then we've got, of course, your beloved Netherlands against Japan. This is the game of the day here. This is, I don't know how to call this. I don't know how to call this. I don't know how to call this one. I mean, you could say,
because I'm biased, I'm going to say that the Dutch, but it's going to be a squeaker. I think it's going to be, it's going to be a 1-goal advantage. Yeah. And it's not going to look pretty. And the Dutch they're going to falter a little bit.
Japan,
there's going to be moments where you're just like pulling out whatever hair I have left in my beard. Thankfully, I will only be able to watch half of it because I'll have to travel to my games. So I only have to endure one half of.
Well, hopefully it's a good one. I'm also curious to see how the Netherlands line up as well, because again, they've got different styles of play. I don't think they go Weghorst. I think they go Depay. But how do you get?
They're going to go Depay. They're going to go Depay. Weghorst is only going to be employed as a sub.
Yeah. And so no, this is going to be a good one. And I always enjoy watching the Netherlands in World Cups because they are always very competitive, very good. There's another statistic, isn't it? Like per capita, right? They've sort of like outperformed everyone in terms of the number of people that they have in the country and how well they do in terms of their rankings. They've got always a very, very competitive team. So yeah. And then the other afternoon game, Côte d'Ivoire against Ecuador. This is also going to be a very tight game.
This is just as good as the Netherlands, Japan, but without the big cachet around it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing Côte d'Ivoire. I'm looking forward to seeing particularly Diomande, as he's got a lot more sort of headlines as well. I know he's the subject of a lot of transfer speculation at the moment. He's the hottest
transfer ruler right now.
Yeah. Which we have numerous articles, I believe, on him as well from some of our transfer correspondents. Doué as well, Desiree Doué's brother, Guéla Doué as well. He's going to be featuring as well, one of the many brothers as well that are featuring in this World Cup. So yeah, I'm interested. And then, of course, Moises Caicedo is a Chelsea fan, and I want to see this Kendry Paez, who Chelsea also owns. So let's see how he performs. They've got this young.
Again, I think our boy Joyous put a good finger on this one, right? Ecuador, solid defensively, disciplined, tough to break down. They depend so heavily on that striker of theirs, right? And he's 36.
Valencia, right? And Valencia, is that one? Yeah,
Valencia, correct.
Yeah, that's it for Pachuca.
And that's listen, guy's got 105 caps. He's a legend. But who else do they have?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they've got some, again, as you say, their defense and
there's two backups they've got. They've got Kevin Rodriguez.
Yes.
Who plays for Union Saint-Gilloise. in Belgium. And then you've got a Jordi Caicedo. I do not know whether Jordi is related to Moises or not.
It's a very common
But,
but
you know,
and that backline, Hincapié and Pacho as well, both, Champions League finalists, right? This is a solid defense. Yeah.
Yeah, very solid. And then you've also got like Joel Ordóñez, who plays for Brugge. I mean, like, no, it's a solid group. And I'm, like you said, really, I think it's going to be, this could be the best match of the day. If both teams play at their max potential, this is going to be an absolute barnstormer.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully. And then moving on to the final game in the evening, we've got Sweden against Tunisia. Now, I'm looking now. Alexander Isak seems to have got a little bit of form and fitness back as well. Scored some good goals in the pre-matches as well. So Sweden with him and Gyökeres up front, that's a pretty dangerous lineup as well. It's a really combo. Good. Yeah. And this is playing with two strikers. This is old school. This is old school football as well, right? Yeah. Normally it's just one and then a bunch of 10s playing around, but you're going to play with two number 9s and see how they go and see what Graham Potter does for them. But yeah, that will be an interesting one. I have a feeling Tunisia might surprise us all and actually again play in that very North African style way, where it's quick, fast, technical, and can run, and they are fit. So we'll see what happens. I think
they're the weakest of the 4 North African teams, right? Yeah. Tunisia. Yeah. But that's not saying they're a pushover.
They're competitive.
Right? I mean, they're very competitive. But they're the one that they're just, they're the one that can, if any team can be brushed aside, it is probably those. Yeah. It is probably that one. Yeah. And of course, Gyökeres and Isak, it's the most expensive striker pairing that exists in this World Cup, right? Their cumulative value is something in the excess of $220 million just for those two.
$250 million worth of strikers up front, Graham Potter.
Just deploy
that. Okay. Make that work. Yeah. Yeah.
But they're going to have to make that work, right? This has the potential to go the same way that Turkey does.
I agree. This is
not really have, I think, in almost not just even an emotional favorite, but an emotional and an intellectual favorite. Everybody's going to be thinking that Sweden has this one, which gives Tunisia the opportunity to come in and really make a statement.
Aside from Paraguay, there have been no easy games. There have been no pushovers so far.
No, Paraguay was the only game where you really felt, wow, they were just outclassed.
Beaten.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even Paraguay managed to turn that around and make it interesting in the second halves.
Indeed. Yeah.
Turkey they tried. Good effort. Bad outcome. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. They tried storming the Australian. What was it? The quip I heard? They said, yes, you might hear about many of the famous beaches in Australia, Bondi Beach, etc. But now it's Patrick Beach is the most famous beach in Australia. And I'm like, it's a good one. It's a good one.
It's a good.
Whoever wrote that copy deserves an Emmy.
Well done. Okay, well, Qooligan, that takes us around the world. That's 8 games, 4 games today that are going to be kicking off as well. So yeah, get into it. Enjoy. Good luck with your refereeing today, and hopefully you do get to catch up and watch some of the games, and hopefully it will be entertaining. I can tell you, in the Striker household, it will be on. It's on all the time. So yeah, enjoy, I guess. Wonderful. Well, Qooligan, as always, back same again tomorrow. Take care.
Peace.